I'm Anna.
I'm Ben.
We're AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we have the honor and privilege of watching Violet Evergarden, the movie. It's the last piece of Violet Evergarden to this perfect puzzle so far. I am just excited. This has been a perfect series in terms of expectations. Jokingly, at the beginning of last movie, I was like, oh, maybe we're going to see Violet's upbringing in a way that we've never seen it before, you know, before she even met Gilbert. But after last movie, I feel like with the Iris-Erica conversation about Lakulia and what Lakulia's doing and whether she's not going to be a doll or maybe she is, and then what our own goals and futures are going to look like, I kind of expect that's what we're going to explore in this movie.
I think by the title alone, obviously the movie we watched prior to this had a subtitle that had more substance to it than just being Violet Evergarden, the movie. It was Eternity and the Auto Memory Dolls.
Yeah.
And it was a story that kind of was similar to the 13 episodes and the OVA of Violet Evergarden, the series, where it was a story where we got to meet a new character, and through meeting this new person and going through this new letter writing journey, Violet is also growing and learning what love is. But with just the movie being the kind of subtitle to this, it feels like it has to be, at least for me in my reading of it, much more Violet focused.
Yeah.
And especially if you think about how Violet ended the 13 episodes, it was becoming someone who kind of like embodied their name, learned I love you, that she literally became Violet Evergarden even more so than she was at the very beginning of the series. And for this, I feel like it either would need to be, in my mind, the past, like we were jokingly theorizing of like, what if we got to see even prior to her becoming a weapon and a tool, or it would need to be the future, which kind of then goes off of whatever we see of her at the end of the last movie.
I think you're right. Like the inherent difference that this title is just Violet Evergarden, the movie, or at least that's what we know. It that adds up to me, making it more Violet focused.
Because like I can't imagine, sometimes they put out something that is a movie format of a story that we've already seen.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine that there would be a movie format of like the 13
like Pokemon
episodes.
I Choose You, like a retelling.
A retelling. Like I can't imagine that that's what this would be. The title could lean toward that possibility, but I don't think that's what this would be.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
Sweet. Hey, unfortunately, our reaction and discussion to Violet Evergarden episode 9 has been manually taken down, and we were given a copyright strike for it. That is not good. So every Violet Evergarden video we're putting out going forward on YouTube publicly is going to have to be hosted offsite for the reaction. Thankfully, it's just this movie, and we're hoping that no other copyright strikes are given for previous videos. But if you would like to watch the reaction portion for this movie, please click the link below in the description. It should be easy. It should be taking you right there and you can watch it. Thank you so much if you do. Love you and have a good day. Okay, that was Violet Evergarden, the movie. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
This isn't what you saw? You didn't see this? No. Like, how do you watch? Like, how can you watch? Like,
okay,
obviously it's
look,
hypothetical.
You can tell when this came out.
2020.
It says, I watched the series, like, the 13 episodes, like, right when it came out, and then after that...
Sorry, it's rhetorical, because, like, obviously I knew the answer, like, and it doesn't matter, but, like, for how fucking impactful and how much happened, and Gilbert's alive.
Yeah.
Like, a whole... What'd you think?
I feel like...
Smash or pass, Violet Evergarden the movie.
Smash! I loved it. I think that it was what, as a viewer, I would have wanted her future to be, I guess, in terms of, like, certain aspects especially, or for certain characters even, not just Violet, what I would kind of want for their growth over the years and what their life would turn into. I think Gilbert and his brother, I think the Bougainvillea brothers are a great example here in terms of like what I would have wanted for either of them in terms of after a few years and after the war. And then Violet is where I would have wanted her to be, which is she finishes up her work. She doesn't just be like, okay, I have Gilbert in front of me, I'm not going back. And I'm like, we know she's been booked out for like 2 months or more.
3 months. And like she
goes and she finishes her work, and then she lives what she wants to live. She
The
is free to make
person
those choices.
that she has become, she is not willing to throw away even an ounce of it or change an ounce of who she is now for that reintroduction to Gilbert.
I love that. And I think that brings up kind of them as a pair. That Violet has gotten to a point where, like you just said, she is unwilling to lose what she has gained for someone who was significant to her and still is from the past. It's more like we either continue forward together and me as who I am now and you as who you are now, or like, you know, or I'm going back and because she was like, if he doesn't want to see me, like, he's alive, like that's enough for me. And I feel like for them to work in any way, there needed to be time. You know, because of their previous dynamic, there needed to be...
Okay, that's what I wanted to talk about a lot of. Like, about... You couldn't have done it. How long was the movie?
Like 2 hours.
And like 2 hours and 10 minutes. You couldn't have done it. But I was like, I wish... And I'm so curious what's next. Because obviously we know, but there was such a dynamic that existed between them that to be reunited at this point, I wonder how they break it down and go forward.
I feel like it was probably relatively easy. Obviously, with the reunion that we do see, he does tell her, like, I'm not your superior anymore, but she continues to say Major. But we do know that Violet has grown to be really quick at picking things up, really quick at understanding feelings. Yeah. I don't think it would have taken many times after this reunion for her to dispel Major and replace it with Gilbert, if you know what I mean.
But I mean, even from his end too, like there's a lot of work from both of them to do to like get out of that like dynamic of Major Master. Like
in my mind, Gilbert could make zero work unless Violet had already made the work that she'd done over these 4 years. We get a Gilbert that's almost kind of in a stagnant state. Even though it's been 4 years, he is way further behind most of the other people that participated in the war or were impacted by the war in terms of being able to kind of actually internally let it go to some extent and continue living freely. He's still kind of holding these demons, these memories, these feelings, this guilt, and to the point where he doesn't go to his mother's funeral. He's completely denouncing his name and not telling anyone he's alive. That shows that he feels shame and guilty, not him just wanting to live free. It's like he doesn't want to face something. And I feel like for him, you need to have a Violet that has gone through this gap of time of learning herself, understanding emotions, learning what I love you means, and being able to stand on her own 2 feet as someone who doesn't take orders and thinks for herself, for him to then also heal. He needs to see that even just his memory on her was strong enough for her to, what he said to her, like, I want you to live, she did. He wasn't around and she did. That is what you would need as a person who feels like a little worried about your previous dynamic. Like, were you doing things because I told you to do? She needed to live and impress him, if you will. And then he gets to see, like, oh my gosh, look who you are now. And you did it all because you wanted to. And because of, like, everyone's inspired by previous people that they've met in their life.
Yeah.
That's not unusual.
That was so extraordinary.
It's so extraordinary that it's hard to really pick different things to talk about because there was so much.
Yeah, I'm looking at my notes and it's so hard.
I went through too many pages for it to be like, sometimes it can be pretty easy to know what to talk about because like maybe a 23-minute episode sometimes goes to like a second page. You know, so it's very easy to, like, everything's right there. But I feel like I went across,
6 times that.
Yeah.
You know what? It's hard to talk about this movie as, like, a a solo thing as well, when in reality it caps off an entire world for me.
It does.
And
I mean, with Daisy and Anne's storyline, I think it definitely.
And like, one, I said it in the movie, that Violet is, I love her as a character more than I can imagine loving a character, but I also love every goddamn character we have met in this series. I can't tell you, you'll see how fucking pitiful I looked within the montage of the Yuri's moment when it came with Iris and when it came with Benedict and all they were doing. And I loved seeing Hodgins with Violet where he was. I love Hodgins more than any words can describe. I love so many of these characters, and I'm so proud of them.
I feel like what you said in terms of this movie kind of capping everything off, not only does it cap off Violet's legacy in a whole, like she's still known as being this famous doll that did these amazing things, that quit her job and no one's heard, what happened to her since then, but she did these amazing things. And we know now through Daisy how the end of her days probably played out. I mean, she was loved by the people that lived on this island. She was the postal worker basically on this island and moved from the lighthouse to the main street. It seemed like the man that Daisy was talking to had such love and care and reverence and admiration toward Violet. He had the pin.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you want to bet it was hers?
Yeah.
And the fact that he did the thumbs up and we get Eurus kind of doing that to Violet and then her doing it back in the movie.
How many pinky promises did she make with other people on that island for
Right.
the rest of her life?
And so not only did we cap off Violet,
yeah.
we also, at the very beginning of the movie, they only mention 3 of the previous kind of storylines from the series, which is the playwright, the princess, and the opera singer, which was the OVA. And we get to see all 3 of those in the 4 year after in some capacity, like what they're doing in the 4 years after the war. And that is also kind of capping off the series for us. I do wonder why they picked those 4, like those 3 specifically, those 3 storylines.
I think it just stems from intimate, crucial moments that for Violet
I think
herself.
You could read into it. Like, I think if you went back to those specific episodes and like Anne's episode, is there something major that you could take from each of those episodes that almost like spells out a code for why they would have been picked?
Man, the choice to go with what they did with Anne, I was so scared at first because I'm stupid. Because I don't remember what I say. What does Violet Evergarden do best? It fucks with time, right? And it's perfect. It was so important to bring that through line into a movie if you expect and want your audience to have a point that you feel like you knew what the rest of this main character's life was. Violet has transcended what one person's life is. Violet is affecting the world and people and their relationships with each other after she's gone. And God.
I think I might have found the answer.
You were decoding it?
I was decoding it a little bit.
Okay.
So I feel like the other episodes, that the 3 that were picked were ones that couldn't be as easily just laced in to Violet and her coworkers. Iris had an episode. We get to see what she's like in the 4 years. She's still working really hard. She basically probably feels like a receptionist or a secretary to Violet with the fact that everyone's requesting Violet. But we get to see her then, how much she still cares for the job, how much she still wants to be doing it. We're seeing, and Erica had an episode, we're seeing that Erica is living her dream, and she even has a play coming out at the end of this. And then another episode I can think of is Aiden's episode, and that's a death's door letter.
Yeah.
Like, that's Eurus. Like, that's the same theme as, like, Anne's letters from her mom. And then Aiden, like, that's the very similar parallel there of writing to someone as you fear that you are about to die. Yeah, so that was my little decoding. I hope that it
Good job.
It reached you. My words.
I'm so happy for Erica. I imagine Iris. I don't imagine Iris. You know why? Because everything that I could have ever wanted, which was like, oh yeah, Iris, top of the charts at being a doll. Iris's like subtle, sneaky arc in this movie with the phone is gotta be one of the best parts of the movie.
If you're gonna bring up Iris, I feel like the phone is a great topic because she's the character that kind of starts to paint honestly, her talking to Erica in the last movie about Luculia and like, are you gonna leave your job, getting married, that sort of thing. And then in this movie, there's another introduction of an element that could kind of put your job at risk, which is the fact that once that tower is finished, everyone's gonna have a telephone. But we know Iris is resourceful, she's caring, she's gonna make whatever beautiful life she can, and the fact that she can recognize that the phone can be a beautiful thing, even though the job that she is doing is a beautiful thing and she's worried it's going to be obsolete, she's still able to put that aside, realize the worth that the phone can bring to the situation, and have it be how Eurus is able to talk to Lucas. And Benedict gonna beat that rich man up.
Dude, it was incredible. And because it wasn't just action, you could see the emotion on their face. They all cared so much because the fucking situation is severe and incredibly important, but also they know it through Violet. Sure. It's brilliant. I'm gonna be hopping around for the rest of the discussion, to different timestamps that I had brought up because for a reason or another.
Okay, so I only timestamped one visual for sure, and
it's this. Yours is this. Oh my god, seeing Violet through the glasses was extraordinary.
We love stuff like this,
dude. Look at the ripple on the edge of the lens. This is too cool.
And the composition of the shot, you know what it kind of reminds me of? When we get the same shot from a flashback in this, and it's Gilbert's shoulder as he's bringing up Violet's name to her. Something about the composition where someone's almost off screen. Yeah. I definitely loved that shot to the point that I also wrote down.
Another one that I had brought up or written down was the group picture of them all, and we get to see Taylor, we get to see Roland. It's phenomenal.
The two girls that worked the reception. Yeah. It's definitely one of them that
probably, I think the one closer to the end, if I had to guess.
One of them that was the old woman that was working the museum. In my mind, definitely. Because it makes sense. And it looks like Erica's in this picture, even though she doesn't work there anymore.
Do you
possibly
think...
Yeah. I think they still probably told her to come for this.
Do you think Hodgins ever has a kid after the trauma he's been put through by both boys and girls?
He doesn't want a girl, he doesn't want a boy. What's he gonna do?
Another thing that I don't have a specific timestamp for this, so apologies, but there's something that Violet Evergarden does, I feel like specifically in this movie, with back of the hair highlights and the off colors that they do.
You did bring that up during it, yeah.
It's so fascinating, and so kind of, I don't know, it's such an interesting choice to do. I'm gonna try to find
there's an example. Okay,
there's an okay example of it. Let's see, even here, look at on
what they do with highlights. Really, even
it's really, really interesting. That I loved. I have 1/1850. Oh God, why? Oh no, yeah. This was when Hodgins
hears the voice and he knows that it's Gilbert.
Yeah. I guess that brings me right into a quick overarching, and that the sound design in this movie was incredible. The standout moment was the Violet Gilbert scene while it was raining, hearing the juxtaposition of the audio from inside, outside, and then in between, and how they muffled it. And equalized it was brilliant. Visually, the rain, I don't think I've ever seen rain be portrayed this well.
Are you talking about that one shot where it was kind of coming
That was one of them.
Okay.
Even before Violet starts like running away, when we see her walking down the steps, like there's so many different layers of where Rain is affecting and being affected. And when she turns away and I'm waiting for it, when she walks down the stairs, you can see it on the railing, right?
And how when she moved her foot,
it's just,
that's beautiful.
And I loved Hodgins' response.
Reaction.
He immediately grabs the bag and then goes after her, but is like,
you idiot. Dude, like Hodgins was I could so sympathize with him. I don't have kids, so I can't empathize with him. Because technically Violet's like that to him in some regard. And I can totally understand all of his feelings in this. The clenching of his fists, him yelling, you idiot. Like, this is his friend, his best friend, to the fact that he even took care of Violet because of Gilbert's request. And he's been doing this for years, caring for this girl, helping her figure out what I love you meant and giving her a safe home. And finally, you're like, wow, my best friend, I get to see him again. Oh, best friend, look how much she's like, look how much she's grown. Look the woman she's become. She's like, like, aren't we proud that this is like what she's turned into? The love that you gave her. She's been able to figure out what it means. Like, I'm so proud. Like, I want you to share in this with us. And now you're fucking making her upset.
This is a great shot. Violet's POV of her crying.
One tear. And I love that because it's like a carpet that it lands on. So you can imagine that. You can imagine the material that rug might be made out of and how the water might not actually seep through. And it's how it probably could still be sitting there like a little droplet.
Yeah. The second that it panned up to Yuri's.
And he looks so much sicker than the last time we saw him.
That's another thing that I foolishly was scared of. I was like, how are we going to tie all of these plots together, and how is it going to be the perfection I know it will be? And I couldn't think of it. And when we saw Violet spotting Lucas on the way out, I'm like, how are they going to make that happen? Mm-hmm. And they did it in the best way possible. And we were
so worried about it. We were like, Violet's going on this trip. But you know what it did for him? It gave him the confidence to be able to tell Lucas what he wanted to say. It gave him even more of what he needed in terms of strength there in this moment, knowing that Violet was able to see again the person that she cared about so much, the person that gave her first I love you. Like, I love that his reaction was positive. Like, when Iris turns and he's like, Violet, you're not Violet, why isn't Violet here? But hearing why she isn't, like, other people would be like, she gave me a pinky promise. Like, that's what I was scared of. Like, she abandoned me here. Like, she pinky promised me. But as soon as he hears the reason, he's just like, he's so happy about it. He's so glad that she's, like, that's a worthwhile reason for her to not be here right now. 100% understanding to that.
And if there's something that you want to tell him, it's best to do it while you can. There's a difference. He didn't get a letter written for Lucas, which is what Violet was going to be there for, to give to him after he passed. He ended up being able to do what Violet initially suggested and
that's what Violet was doing.
Exactly. It's
beautiful.
So good.
And Lucas, just the fact that he's been visited, like the line where
I saw you through the window. I saw your head through the window.
He hasn't just been standing outside and wanting to go in. He's been actually actively seeing his friend through the window, knowing he's there, maybe even being able to tell how sick he is. I mean, kids are pretty smart. If someone's in the hospital for this long of a time and they don't want to see you, I think you can piece some things together.
His little brother going up to him afterwards.
Even though he was dead. Dude, that was. I was like, wait, does the little brother not understand that he's like what death is? Like, dude, I was scared for a second.
I can't believe how great of a moment it was for Iris. Like, in the moment, I'm like, oh my god, this is when Iris is going to go Super Saiyan and beat her rival Violet by doing what Violet did earlier to him. And that was kind of like prodding in, using her own experiences and offering up how he might be feeling, and Violet was great at it. I was like, that's what's gonna happen. And then Iris, like, threw her entire, like, what could have been such, like, a short-sighted, like, she just pushed past every mental block, saw the correct answer, and just went for it, and it was beautiful. Mm-hmm. Our dog is so upset right now.
Hopefully you can't hear her.
You probably can.
I'm so sorry. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is the brothers.
Yeah.
I want to first go to... Okay, we're back from taking our dog out. She lied. She didn't have to do anything. She just wanted to
watch Violet Evergarden.
She wanted to watch Violet Evergarden and join this discussion with us.
Yeah.
But we are back now.
The brothers.
The brothers is something that I wanted to talk about.
Can I preface it with... This is probably the series, if I had to guess, that I imagine I have fucked up on names the most on. I still don't know what the correct pronunciation is for several characters. Diethard
His name in particular
included.
We need to talk about.
Yes. How was it spelled in this movie?
It was like
occasionally?
Diafred. And which kind of, now that I...
Diafred?
Diafred? Hodgins said it, and as soon as I saw that they spelled it different in the subtitles than what we have been seeing in the series, I was like, you know, that spelling kind of sounds like how the voice actors are saying it.
Yeah.
And I've just been kind of trying to pronounce it from how I was reading it during the series. So, you know, who knows? I wish they had a nickname for him, so I just didn't have to say it wrong. And...
I had just pulled up an example of it.
Okay.
Captain
Diet Fried.
Yeah.
Captain Dietfried is how it sounds like they're saying it.
And that's different than I have been saying it for the series. So I
Apologies.
apologize. Yeah, but God.
Should we just go with Dietfried?
I don't know.
Or do we go with what we've been...
Diethard.
Okay, Diethard. Let's go with it. Okay, so what I wanted to start talking about them with is very soon in the movie when we start to get his character... You can begin to pick up on a softness that has come to his expression, especially in regard to when he's talking to Violet, when he's realizing that Violet's at his mother's grave, when he's acknowledging that she's there a lot. And he even questions why she doesn't come the next day, which is really interesting for his character because you would think that he would have thought about the reason she does give, which is, I didn't want your other family members to like see me here at the actual funeral. And the guy that we know would have been like, we don't want you here. Do you think that you deserve to like be here? Like you didn't save her son, you know? Like a little more of that energy. But it seemed like the way he was putting forward, it was kind of like, he would be okay with her being there tomorrow.
You know what was incredible is that like he knew it was her who was putting the flower here and leaving it for his mother and was like, I'm going to show up a day early too. I'm going to show up a day early to see if it was Violet.
Do you think he like figured that she wouldn't come? Like
his words are, so it was you who was doing this, which tells me that's like he's figured that she won't come tomorrow. She is going to come today. I'm going to show up today.
Wait, it's not the funeral. What is it?
The anniversary?
Anniversary.
Yeah.
So, like, a family get-together of it. Sorry for kind of saying that wrong.
I got your point.
But, so this was the first instance to us that...
Every month,
he's definitely gone through some changes in terms of maybe how he feels about her from what transpired after episode 13, even, and their journey on the train and everything. And then I feel like the thing that solidifies this change the most is when he comes to return the ribbon and she basically attacks him.
Yeah.
And you can totally, as a viewer, be like, I know how he's going to respond to this. He's going to be like, see, you haven't changed at all. But he's like, oh no, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah. And another thing they did with him that was absolutely fantastic, that like, he himself acknowledged what I thought. When Hodgins shows up to his office and he's talking, I'm like, oh, this has to be in the past, right?
Wait, I think I wrote down this is the only way I know how to talk.
Exactly.
Is that the
and
line
I'm like,
you're talking about?
it like gives me reminiscence of the past for half of a second. And I'm like, obviously it isn't that. And then he's like, it's the only way I know how to talk. I'm like, ugh.
And you know what we get? We see where he learned that way to talk. He talks to everyone like he talks to his dad.
Mm-hmm.
He's still rebelling. He's still being stubborn. He's still being the difficult child, the one that doesn't want to kind of take after his dad and be in the military. Like, yeah, he's in the Navy, you know, so he's still important in that regard, but he's not like following the exact path his father wanted him to.
But by the end of the movie, he takes that back away from Gilbert and says, "I'll do it. You know, I'll do it this time."
Yeah, and so I think that something else that was solidified through seeing him in this, in the way that Diethard, in this, the way that we did, I feel like I'm validated for some of my feelings that I felt about him, both during my first watch and my rewatch upon like the end of the series, in how he was, what I felt was really projecting onto Violet.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like his anger toward her, his snappiness toward her, I had felt like there was just so much guilt on his own end within that. Like, whether it was, I gave you this tool in hopes to protect you, and then this tool couldn't even protect you, therefore I couldn't. But I feel like we get to an even deeper aspect of it in this, which almost, it makes it even better that Hodgins and him have a few interactions, because Hodgins, his conversation with Gilbert when Gilbert brought up what Violet would be doing after the war, we get the idea that Hodgins was lucky. Hodgins wasn't on the front lines. Hodgins wasn't expected to be in harm's way. And then in the Navy, Diethard also wasn't going to be directly in harm's way. But Gilbert, who took on the family mantle, if you will, was directly in harm's way. It could have been Diethard as the one leading the troops into Intense, you know? Like, I feel like we really can see fully all of the reasons why he has so much, as he would even say, to apologize to his brother for. And then we get the freaking best part of it toward the end, which is, he's like, I had a lot to apologize to you about, but like, what did he actually say? He was really disappointed in Gilbert for not seeing Violet.
Yeah.
And he even was like, I had a lot to apologize for, but like, dude.
With how you're being now, I'm gonna stuff you in a sack and take you to
Violet.
Sorry, I was while you were trying to think about what he was saying, I was like, man, what was Gilbert's first reaction to getting asked to write a letter? Had he already heard the name Violet Evergarden and like had a visceral reaction to it?
Mm-hmm.
But
we know that he has I think that, so we do get the idea that he has been writing for the kids or for the people that lived here before even becoming a teacher. So I think, like, they said that he was writing letters and then became the teacher. So it could be that he could, I don't know, I feel like he might have heard, probably, because it seems like other people on the island have heard the name. So I feel like during the hymn part, it wasn't the first time he heard Violet Evergarden, when the lady's like, oh, this hymn was written by I feel like that's probably not the first time he's heard it, but he still has such a strong reaction to hearing the name, especially with the fact that he's denounced the family name, and Evergarden is technically like adjacent to his family. She's still like wearing that name that he gave her, you know?
Yeah. Interesting. I was planning on apologizing to you if I ever saw you again.
For right now?
I would have stuffed you in a sack and drag you off to see Violet.
The way that they draw the facial expression, mainly in the eyes and the eyebrows in these two brothers, is extraordinary.
Yeah.
I've complimented some other shows in terms of how they animate expressions, and one of those is Vinland Saga. I feel like Vinland Saga has some amazing facial expressions that are animated, and tears and crying faces, anything like that. And I feel like this show could also be an example of that, like specifically with the kind of, they're not even micro movements with the brothers, but their emotions and how they feel are so in here, and they're so complicated.
All right. Well, I love this series.
And it's over now.
I'm going to go rewatch it.
Yeah?
Yep.
I'll be glad to rewatch it with you. Thank you for joining me here. Now I can finally say that one of my favorite shows has been watched together with you, and I've finished it.
Yeah.
You know, because it's kind of embarrassing to say that a show is in your top 5 and not have seen anything other than the 13 episodes of Violet Evergarden.
I hope to watch a show in a similar category again in my life, because it was a breath of fresh air, and it made me I'm lucky to have seen and experienced the story.
Okay, I don't know if I should ask you to leave or close your ears.
I'm confused at why you would.
Because there's other shows that I would love for you to experience.
You don't have to say them now. We can talk about it later. Poll,
Yeah.
But, okay. You good?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. We hope to see you next time.